Students, did you know back in the day, they actually put the naughty kids in the corner of the room? Well, today you're going to go into the corners too, but not because you're naughty. It's because you are sophisticated and opinionated, and that is a good thing. Shall we give the active learning strategy entitled "In the Corner" a try?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Each video vignette contains multiple voiceovers such as this. I will provide you with additional information and explanations in each voiceover. For instance, here I am giving the students a few tips on the finer points of sign making construction and etiquette. Colored markers and colored paper is all that is required. I ask the students to write the words strongly agree, strongly disagree, agree, and disagree in large, bold letters. Then, we are ready to move on. It should be noted, sign making could be done the day before as a means of getting the students excited about tomorrow's active learning strategy.
Students, the signs have been made, and we're going to place these in the four corners of the room. What do the signs say? The first one says agree. Strongly agree. Disagree? What does that say?
Strongly disagree.
Strongly disagree. I'm going to make a series of statements. And you're going to think about that statement for a moment or two. And then I'm going to ask you to physically place yourself into one of the corners, depending upon how you feel about the statement I made. So if you strongly disagree, that is the sign I want you standing next to. If you strongly agree with the statement, that's where I want you. It's pretty easy. You ready for this?
Yeah.
All right. Let's put the signs that you've made in the corners. The signs are up. Are you ready for the statements?
Yeah.
I would like to get some of your thoughts on reading versus television. So for this statement, I want you to think about it for a moment or two, and then I'm going to ask you to lift yourselves up out of your seats and physically place yourselves into one of the corners. Now quickly review the signs. Here is the statement. Reading allows you to learn more effectively than television. Again, reading allows you to learn more effectively than television. Think about that for a moment, and then I'm going to ask you to move into one of the corners. Go ahead. It appears we have a large contingent of you that agree with that statement. Do I have some volunteers willing to share their thoughts? Okay, awesome. John?
Well, TV I think is relatively important. You can learn some things from TV, but I think reading is more important because it makes your mind work a little more.
I like that. It makes your mind work a little more. You can learn some things from television, and I concur, but when you get into reading in depth, it does make your mind work a little harder because you have to imagine all the things that you're reading on the page. I like that answer. Let's give a little something on that.
Each video vignette contains a section entitled Helpful Hints. These helpful hints will allow you to more effectively utilize the active learning strategy being demonstrated. The exciting part about this particular strategy is moving from one corner to the next and asking students to explain their positions. I may ask for a few volunteers from each corner. I may allow them to talk amongst themselves for a few minutes and then ask for one spokesperson. I may simply require every student to offer his or her own perspective. Once feedback is provided from each corner, I ask my students to return to their seats. Use this active learning strategy for just one or multiple statements, whatever you feel is necessary to energize your students and their thinking. Here are a few more thoughts on reading versus television from another group of students. Then, I will show the versatility of this strategy by using a multitude of different statements from different content areas. Please note, the signs may be moved to different corners from one class period to the next and from day to day.
All right, Chuyi.
I believe that TV is a lot better because reading requires you to think, and TV doesn't do that. And also, reading requires you to imagine, and not a lot of people have like that big of an imagination. So TV does it for you, and I believe TV is a lot better.
Okay, awesome. You know, that's a good point, because I was watching a program the other day, and after they explained some abstract concept, they did some animation. And they broke it down step by step on how it worked. And prior to that, I really couldn't make sense of what they were saying. But when they simplified it in a step-by-step process, I was like, oh yeah, now I get it. So, valid point. Okay, Dustin, I'm going to start with you. And I'd like you to tell us why you agree with that statement.
I agree that reading helps you learn better or more effectively than watching TV because it takes more focus to like read something other than, just zoning out on a TV. And like it requires more imagination and it just helps you learn more in depth than what watching TV does.
Well stated. Thank you. Now, Ashley, like so many women in history who stood alone, here you are. So I gotta know. My class wants to know. Why do you strongly disagree with that statement?
But then if you watch TV, I'm a visual learner, it's easier to understand because then they'll explain the tools that they use to hunt for the food and all that stuff. So I think that's better.
Okay, so for your learning style, and if it was about, let's say, evolution, you would prefer to be able to see it, see the animation, hear those descriptions, because as you said, you're a visual learner and that just suits the way that you process information. Versus a book where you just don't feel like you're getting a complete story. All right, thank you. We are going to read the very important and notable book, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. Now it deals with several themes, good and bad in the world, morality, social class. And to energize your thinking, I want you to ponder this statement for a moment. In the world that you live in, there are more good people than bad people. And you will have to use your own definition of good versus bad. Again, here's a statement. There are more good people than bad people in the world. I want you to talk about that briefly and then move into one of the corners. Go ahead. Let's take the world of science. Right now, our government is talking about spending billions to send people to Mars. Is that a good idea? Not such a good idea. We do have homeless. We do have poverty right here in America. Maybe those tax dollars are better spent elsewhere. I don't know. I'm curious how you feel. Here's the statement. America and our government should spend billions to go to Mars. Think about that. And now I'd like you to move. global warming. Mother Earth is getting hotter. Or it's much to do about nothing. Here's the statements. The Earth is warming up. Go ahead and move. The legal voting age should be lowered from 18 to 15. Again, the legal voting age should be lowered from 18 to 15. Go ahead. Your music is getting increasingly more violent. Go ahead. It's important to be able to speak a second language. Again, it's important to be able to speak a second language. Go ahead and discuss that briefly, and then move into one of the corners. All right, Chu-Yi, you're in the strongly agree category. Please explain.
Well, I think if you know more languages, you'll have like a better chance of getting a job, and that like if you know more languages, you can also communicate with others.
Do you have another language?
Yeah, my second language is actually Hmong.
Okay.
My first language, I'd say.
First language is Hmong.
Yeah, and then it's English, and then I kind of speak a little bit of Spanish.
So you're almost trilingual,
Yeah.
if I'm saying that right. Can you reiterate or repeat what you just said in Hmong?
Yakapo lu mei or yakapo lu sholi no te kuding tara shorty mei lu dautia.
I don't know exactly what he said, but it sounds like a very beautiful language. So let's give a little something on that. Nice job. Your parents should be allowed to review your internet searches. Your parents should be allowed to review your internet searches. Go ahead. All right, Sam, we moved you into the middle. Why?
Because I don't exactly disagree or agree. I'm sort of stuck in the middle.
All right, she says she's stuck in the middle. And this may be an example of critical thinking. She can't simply just place herself into one of the corners because she's torn between multiple answers. Explain.
Well, yeah, you want your parents to be concerned about you and make sure you're not doing anything you're not supposed to. But what if, theoretically, you were concerned about your parents and you're looking up on the internet whether or not what they're doing is illegal?
I like it. So parents justifiably should be able to review your searches because they want to keep you out of harm's way. There's a lot of terrible stuff on the internet. But you're saying, what if my parents are involved in something and I'm not sure about the legality of it? So I'm going to do my own little search, figure that out, because I may or may not report my parents. And you don't want to tip them off.
Exactly.
Does that sound like critical thinking to you folks?
Yeah.
Nice job. So let me say the statement again, and I want you to move accordingly. Here it is. In the real world, you need more complex math than simple addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. I want you to move according to how you feel about that statement. Go ahead. All right, thank you everyone. I appreciate you sharing your perspectives. They were very rich and detailed. Now I have a question for all of you. You moved into the various corners. Might some of you, if I were to make that statement again, might some of you, after hearing what your classmates had stated, go to a different corner this time? Okay, raise your hand if you think you might go to a different corner after hearing what some of your classmates had stated. All right, awesome. And I think that speaks to the power of this strategy known as in the corner. Well done, everyone.
Each video vignette contains a section entitled Additional Options. Like all active learning strategies, flexibility is the key. Use this strategy as a primer to introduce a new chapter. Use it in the middle of a topic to re-energize your students, or use it at the end of a unit to help summarize the material. When using this strategy, you may want to have your students briefly discuss the statement with others around them before they commit to a corner. This strategy may last 5 minutes or an entire period, depending on the number of statements you make and the number of students participating. Sometimes I do speed rounds by quickly making a statement and giving the students no time to process the information. The students are expected to get up and move immediately. This technique helps remind students about the importance of being reflective and thoughtful in their decision-making process. Great conversations can occur about the dangers of just following the group or doing what everyone else is doing without thinking. Instead of having every student move, you may want to select just one row. At other times, I may select 4 or 5 students randomly from the entire class. You may want to change the wording on your signs to better suit your statements. Examples may include never, sometimes, always. Instead of 4 signs, you may want to have 3 or 5. Finally, as students move about the room, I constantly challenge them to think for themselves and remind them not to simply follow their friends. Behavioral issues are sometimes a concern, regardless of whether our students are sitting in neatly configured rows and columns or huddled together for an active learning strategy. As students stand in the various corners, if they decide to talk off topic, first I respectfully ask them to refocus. I may stand between disruptive students as I process information around the room. I may ask a student to return to his or her seat. On occasion, when a student or two is reluctant to stand up, I use the strategy anyway and I allow them to remain in their seats. I never try and force them to participate. However, I will ask them for feedback or ask them what corner they might have gone into had they participated. I try to remain positive. I know if I want to have these students participate in the future, I must show kindness. My experiences have taught me, even though some students refuse to participate, they are still learning through this strategy. Each active learning strategy ends with a segment I call Making Connections. Here I provide a short story, idea, or observation that speaks directly to the larger importance of teaching and learning. For instance, the old adage has never been more true. Students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Greeting all students by name as they enter your room. Finding more reasons to smile than not. Catching students being good. Making positive phone calls home. Attending sporting events, musical programs, science and foreign language fairs, school clubs, and other activities go a long way in demonstrating how much we value our students beyond the classroom.